Now is it working?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, today is Monday, April 26, 2004. We're at the home of Paul and Patricia Barber, Roscommon on Deer Heart Valley Road. And first of all, Paul, I ask you to make a statement that this tape will belong to the Roscommon Area Historical Society.
Okay. Uh, this tape will belong to the Roscommon Area Historical Society.
Okay. First of all, Paul, you tell us about your family, your parents, and whoever first came to Roscommon.
My mother first came to Roscommon, would have been about 46, 47, and she lived actually in Crawford County, just a mile down the road here.
What was her name?
Edith Barber.
And how did she happen to come here? Did she have friends or relatives?
Yes, my sister uh, Ruth and her husband Clell Shorty Myers lived down right kitty corner across from her practically.
Oh, okay. Where did she come here from?
Madison Heights.
Oh, okay.
That's where I went to school.
Then did she come as was she still working or still, she wasn't retired by then, was she?
Yes,
Were you young?
yes. Actually, I had joined the Army the first time when she moved up here, and then because she had moved up here, that's why I came up here afterwards, after I got out of the Army the first time.
Okay. And then did she live here the rest of her life?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And your father?
He had died earlier when we lived down in Madison Heights, or Royal Oak Township there.
What was his name?
Robert Stanley Barber.
Robert Stanley Barber. What did he do for a living?
He was, at the time of his death, he was working for Lapham Coal Company in Royal Oak.
And doing what?
No, I beg your pardon. Roseland Park Cemetery. He had been working for Lapham Coal, and then he worked at Roseland Park Cemetery.
Oh, cool. So then, tell us where and when you were born,
Uh,
if you care to divulge that information.
Kimball?
Kimball, Michigan, on October 12, 1930.
You were just a young thing.
Yeah.
So you went to school, where did you graduate?
I didn't graduate. I quit school and joined the Army,
Oh.
but that was at Madison Heights. I was going to school there.
So what grade were you in when you quit?
9th grade.
No kidding. You went to the Army then already?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. How old were you when you enlisted?
Well,
Were you one of those that lied about it?
actually, we found out later that I was only 16 when I first went in the service.
No kidding.
There was a mix-up on his
Birth certificate.
birth certificate that he was a year older than he was.
But your parents did they have to sign for you then, or did you?
Yes,
sign
my
for
mother
them?
did.
Your mother did. Okay, so tell us about your experience in the service.
Well, first time I just spent 2 years in and got out in
So you went in 46.
47.
47.
Yeah, February of 47.
Oh,
And got out just a little shy of 2 years in the service. And I joined the reserves. And I was living up here at the time, and Pat and I got married, and I got recalled when Korea started. So
what year was that you were recalled?
1950.
And how long did you serve that time?
Well, actually, I got finally got through refresher course training and whatnot in Fort Lewis, Washington, and then I went to Korea and I joined my company, the 1st Cavalry, on February 1st of 51, and I was wounded on February 12th of 51.
Oh my gosh.
And then I spent, what, 2.5 years?
Till
And
1953.
yeah, spent a bunch of time in Percy Jones Army Hospital,
Where's that?
Battle Creek.
Oh, right here. in Michigan.
Yeah,
Wow.
and got out of that and came up here, and we were living on unemployment, wasn't it? Or no, retirement or disability.
You had a job. You got a job.
Well, I went to the A&P and went back to the A&P and was
Yeah.
working.
You went. Well, you worked for. Wasn't it Dunham too? You worked at Dunham's Grocery for a short time before you got back in the A&P. And
I worked out at Higgins Lake Boatyard for a little while too, one
you
summer.
worked at Carrick's Grocery.
Yeah, but that was while I was home on convalescent leave.
Oh.
They
Before you were actually discharged.
before I actually got the discharge, yeah. And I
Where was
worked
Carrick's
for
store?
Willard Williams.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Carrick's store is kitty corner across from Sharps by the South State Park.
It burned.
Recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year.
When you worked there, what kind of store was it? Was it a hardware or grocery or what?
Grocery,
Grocery.
just the grocery store.
So it was in competition with Sharps was already there too at that time.
Right.
I was too.
But Sharps was just a
Very small store
very
at that
small
time.
store at that time.
Oh, and Carrick's was larger.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Carrick's store never changed size, I don't think, all the time I can remember.
No.
It's just the size it was when it burnt.
Yeah. So who was the owner when you worked there?
Lynn Carrick. And
So that was in the early 50s yet.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And he had owned the store from, I think a little before, maybe 1936 on, or maybe 35. I'm not too sure about that.
Wow. Yeah, just one question to go back. When you were in the service the first time, were you overseas at all? Were you
No.
in the States the whole time or what?
Yes, in the States.
Okay.
Actually took my training at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I went to automotive mechanic school in Atlanta, Georgia, and then I went to Brooklyn, New York to work on the docks.
Oh.
At that time they were sending back all kinds of equipment from the Second World War, and our job was to prepare that to be shipped from the docks to ordnance depots, and also be on firing squads for burials,
Oh,
because we were living in Brooklyn Army Base was nothing but a big warehouse,
no kidding.
and the trains would come in there and pick up the caskets that had come back from overseas. And
Oh, my gosh. Was that?
we lived on the 4th floor, and then the other floors had caskets on it. And,
That was a grim
uh,
job or not?
not really. If there was anybody that was in the local area, like Brooklyn, New York, New Jersey, we would be the honor guard to take their bodies back to their hometown.
Wow. Well,
And
that was
then I got out.
an emotional thing, though, to be doing that.
Yes, sometimes, really depending on the family, how they were acting.
Because the war was over quite a bit before that.
Yeah, 2-3 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And other than that, why, that about takes care of my service, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So, when were you kids married?
August 19th,
You should figure.
1949.
That's pretty good, Paul.
Yeah, I was wondering if he was gonna get through that.
Yeah. Where was the wedding?
In Roscommon.
At a church or just?
No, at the minister's house.
Mhm.
Oh.
Mhm.
Which minister?
Reverend Sheely. What was his first name?
Willard.
Willard Sheely.
For which church?
Free Methodist Church.
Oh. Okay. Well, that was, and how did you happen to meet?
At
We
the
met
church.
through the church.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. So, how many brothers and sisters do you have?
Oh my gosh.
Are there a whole bunch of you?
Yes,
I think
quite a
we
few.
had, what, 9 children altogether?
Yeah, at least.
And where were you in the pecking order?
Way at the bottom,
Are you the youngest?
youngest.
No, okay, well,
Yeah.
that's why you're so sweet. They'd all spoiled you.
And my brother Bob is the only other one living, and he lives here in Roscommon.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
As a retiree, or did he live here, did he come up when your mother did too?
no, he worked as a radio engineer for the DNR,
Oh,
and he retired from there.
oh, okay.
He worked out at the Forest Fire Equipment
So he's
Station.
been here a long time
Yeah.
too then. Very nice, very nice. And you're the only two alive of the 9?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No kidding, because you're quite young, I would say. 1930, you're not old at all. Okay, so after you came home from Battle Creek, then were you okay physically to work? Did you have to take it easy?
Well, in a way, a little bit. Yeah.
He never did. He just did.
Actually, when I came back from Battle Creek, I got my job back at the A&P, and that
And what
went
did you do there?
just groceries, shop, run the cash
Shopping.
register, and stock shelves.
Did
And,
it all, huh?
mm,
Who was the manager at that time?
Bill Granlin,
Oh, okay.
and came winter time, and our hours were cut down, so I asked Bill if he would lay me off and let me draw unemployment, because I would make more money doing that, and he could give my hours to somebody like Leroy Gulick. He worked there at the time,
Oh, okay.
and somebody that was married, and they'd get more hours that way, and I would make more money on unemployment, and so Bill did it.
Mm-hmm. Great.
And that lasted, that was what, in the middle of December?
January? I think.
1st of January.
Mm-hmm.
And by February, I was tired of not doing anything, so I saw Elwin Matheson on the street one day and asked him if he'd had any jobs open, and we discussed it, where I could take my printer's training right at the Herald News there,
Oh,
and the government would help pay my wages, and
yes, they trained you.
as I was in training.
Oh.
So Elwin and Darrell talked it over, and they hired me on March 1st, 54.
Mhm.
Yeah, I started working there.
Wow. And when did you retire?
Sep-
Last year?
September
2000, you told me.
2001, I think.
Was it 2001?
I have to.
Right after?
It's been so much.
9/11.
48 and a half years anyway.
Yeah.
You
So.
were still working when I was having trouble with my back.
Yeah, so it had to be 201 or 202.
Yeah, that was
September.
2001, so I think you didn't retire till
Yeah, because in May I had back surgery, and then
Yeah.
so 202.
2000.
I don't know.
That's a nice long career.
Uh,
So tell me about this printer's training, and who trained you?
Elwin
The
and
both of them. They already
Daryl
did
and oh man, a man. His first name was Bill. That was run the press. They all trained me, and I had to do a certain amount of things. I'd spend so many hours on each different facet of the job,
that. Wow.
and send that into the government every month. And that way I got paid a journeyman printer's wage, and it cost Elwin and Daryl 75 cents an hour,
And the government paid.
and the
over
government
that.
paid the difference. And then every 6 months, Daryl and Elwin had to pay me an extra 10 cents an hour, and the government would pay me 10 cents an hour less. And that went up until I got my journeyman's papers in 5 years.
5 years.
It took
Yeah.
5 years to do that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So they were marking your progress, then.
Right.
Then who certified you that you were a printer? Did they do that?
Well, there was a gentleman from the VA that came in, at least once a year, usually about twice a year, and checked on things, and made sure that I was getting the kind of training I was supposed to get.
Oh.
It wasn't all just one thing.
Uh-huh.
It was a little bit of everything.
Wow. Wow, well, that was quite a challenge to learn all that, I would think.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Much more interesting than towards the end, where you only did one thing, because then I was doing everything.
What do you
Running,
mean by everything? 'Cause I don't know.
running the line of type, setting the type that would actually print the paper, running the press, making the plates that put the pictures in the
Yeah,
paper.
how did you make those?
Well, there was, at that time, we would, of course, take the picture, develop the film, print the picture the size we wanted it, and there was a machine that was called a Fairchild in there. You had 2 drums on it, and you'd put the picture on the one drum and a piece of plastic on the other drum, and the drum with the picture on it had a little light on it, a little eye that would scan that picture as it turned, and the other one with the plastic on it had a hot, looked like a old phonograph needle, and it would just puncture that so many times every inch. I think it was 80 times an inch. And if it was going to be a light area, it would really burn into the plastic. And if it was going to be a dark area, it would barely touch it. And that would transfer the photograph onto the plastic. Then when it was done, you'd take it off the machine and mount it on a block of wood that was almost an inch thick. And that is how the picture was done.
That was quite a process then.
Yeah, it was sort of a stinky project when you had that hot plastic
on the
being burnt
plastic,
and
yeah.
whatnot. And
Almost like a dot matrix thing then?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Right.
quite a bit like that.
Uh-huh. Wow. So
Same.
what did they,
It's-
now some of those print blocks that you donated to the Historical Society.
We're out of metal.
Yeah.
Okay, that's another part. You had a big pot full of metal that you would heat till it melted. And I forget what the temperature was that we ran it at, but there would be a piece of cardboard that had that picture or whatever it was, like the Democratic Party, Republican Party, or different logo, something like that, embedded right into that cardboard, and you would put that in a tray like that was an inch high and tip it up and pour the hot metal into it, and then when it cooled down enough to be solid, you could take it out, and when it really got cold, well, then you put it on a table saw and squared it up and cut it down to the size you wanted it, and
Sounds like
put it in the paper.
time-consuming process, though.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of the really early papers that I've looked at have no pictures in them at all. That's before what
Probably,
you're talking about.
yeah, that's, there, I'm trying to think back, but it seems to me that there was, the paper, and almost all the papers that the Herald News has there, the Roscommon Herald and the Roscommon News, has some kind of pictures, not photographs, but would be,
For advertising.
yeah, that came from a company that,
So you had a supplier for this metal? You probably, did it come in the sheets or what?
no, the metal itself, the plastic came in sheets that we did photographs on, but the metal came in bars. It's called a pig. They weighed about 28 pounds, and those were also used on the linotype machine. And we would have to, after they were used, we would have to put them in the pot in the back room where we did our casting and clean it, and then add a little bit of tin and a couple other metals, because that would burn out of it when it was in the pot, and clean that scum off. And then we would have big barrels, and we'd put that scum in it and send it to a company in Chicago, and they would redo it, clean it even farther than we did, and replace the tin and all the other metals.
So it's all recycled?
Yeah, because actually lead itself would be too soft. It had to have other metals in it.
Well, but the mixture of whatever the alloy was, was predetermined.
Right.
You didn't have to do that, did you?
No, ours was by gosh, when we cleaned it, how much of the tin or that kind of metal we put in it.
Just by experience, you'd probably figure that out, huh?
Yeah, you'd use it so many times and you start adding to it. And
Wow. It was quite a process.
yes,
Quite a dangerous process.
yeah, because if you had this lead that was so hot, and when you poured it into the cast with that cardboard and whatnot, if there was any moisture in it, it just exploded.
Oh, geez.
And the casting room had metal on the ceiling, and there's a little
There's a nice
spot where
scar.
some hit there, and it just stuck.
I hope you wore safety glasses.
Not really.
Oh, no kidding.
He came home from work one day, and it had splashed up, and he had a piece probably about this big with jagged
Quarter inch?
edges stuck right on his eye.
Oh, my God.
And he said, "Can you get that off my eye?" And so I got an eye cup and some Accusol, which we used to keep on hand, and some Kleenexes, and put the moisture, the Accusol in there, and then held the lid up and just flicked it with the Kleenex and it came off.
Fun times.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then he had a real bad
Yeah, you showed me the scar.
Yeah, yeah.
done.
It's growing in.
How long ago did...
There's not too much.
How long did you do that procedure? How many years was that the procedure?
Till we went to offset printing when Dan Fischel,
So not until the early 70s or what?
well, 75, 76.
Before that, honey, I think he was,
No, Dan came in 74 or 75, and
oh, I thought he was there earlier.
I forget how long it was, but as soon as he came there, he wanted to change it to offset printing because there's no hot metal, no linotype, nothing like that. And when we changed to offset, we had to get different presses.
So was that older procedure really outdated by then, or were all newspapers still using that procedure?
Lots of weekly papers were still using that. Grayling was, I think.
I think Houghton Lake was too at that time.
Yeah, I think they were. I think Houghton Lake was, and then right after that, they changed too.
So you bought all new presses?
Well, actually, what we did was we started going to Standish to have our paper printed, because when Dan Fischel came, the paper had been sold from the Mathesons, and Robert and Ed and the other Perlberg, Robert, Ed, and Al Perlberg bought the paper, and so we just set the paper here and then took it to Standish to be printed, which they still do.
So that was the end of there even being presses here?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Well, you still had the offset press
Well,
that you ran.
well, yeah, we had job printing presses, commercial printing, for letterheads and envelopes and things like that. But we didn't have a newspaper press then.
Well, tell us a little bit about the Mathesons.
Pardon?
Tell me a little bit about the Mathesons.
What do you want to know about?
Well, I don't know, just how they were to work for, and it seemed like the paper was very thorough at that time.
Oh, definitely. Definitely easy to work with. They were very nice to work with. The paper came out on Wednesdays, and Daryl and Alan's wives would come in, Winnie and Polly, and they would help fold the paper, because at that time we could only print 2 pages at a time, and then turn those 2 pages over and print on the other side, and then do it again on another sheet of paper. Then you'd have to pull them together and fold them.
Wow.
And then run them through an addressograph to put the person's name on it that it was going to be mailed to. Put them in bundles, tie them up, and put them in mail bags and